All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're still talking about equilibrium. Today, we're going to be talking about acid and base chemistry. So we have some definitions to know. First off, we're going to know this Swedish scientist named Arrhenius. He had some definitions for acids and bases. He wasn't the only one that came up with definitions for acids and bases. He's the first one we're going to go over today. We had Brunstad and Lowry who did it at the same time. We'll talk about those definitions in the future, but Arrhenius defined an acid as a substance that produces H+ ions when it's dissolved in water. He also defined a base as a substance that produces OH hydroxide ions when dissolved in water. Now we have some universal definitions of an indicator. So it's a substance that changes color in the presence of an acid or a base. And we have a neutralization reaction is the process of an acid and a base combining to form a salt compound and water. So we need to know those definitions as we go through stuff. So we have the generalized equation for an acid-base neutralization reaction. Acid plus base goes to salt plus water. All right, so we have some nomenclature we got to figure out with some binary acids, so our acids. So we have H, so hydrogen ion plus X, in this case, is just a general anion. So we have those end with the X is something that ends with "ide," so like chloride, bromide. These are the ide acids. When we name them as acids, we're going to name them as hydro from the hydroxide ion. We have the base, the root, not the base. The root of our ide, we end it with "ic" instead and add the word acid. So for HCl, we have hydrogen and chloride here. We call it hydrochloric acid. So chlor is the base of chloride. We add that "ic" and we put acid on the ends. So binary acid, HCl is hydrochloric acid. We have our 8 acids. So polyatomic ions end with ATE. So chlorate, sulfate, those guys. We're not going to add hydro. We're just going to do the root of the polyatomic ion, ic, and acid. So HNO3, we have hydrogen ion and nitrate NO3. So we're going to call that nitric acid. So instead of nitrate acid, nitric acid. ITE acid. So again, those polyatomic ions that end with ITE, we're going to use the root, put OUS on it, an acid. So we have hydrogen and chlorite here, ClO2. We're going to, instead of ITE, we're going to put OUS, so chlorus acid. So we need to know those 3 different types of naming ions. We also need to know how to tell when we have a strong acid or a weak acid and the differences between those. So what is a strong acid? It's an acid that completely dissociates in water. So what that means is it breaks apart into its ions completely, goes all the way to its ions. So hydrochloric acid here goes to hydrogen ion and chlorine ion completely when dissolved in water. Whereas weak acids, they have an equilibrium. So what we've been talking about, there's a balance between reactants and products somewhere in between completely going. So instead of the arrow that we have with our strong acids, we're going to have our double-sided arrow here. So we have HClO2 goes to H+ and ClO2 in equilibrium. So for all binary acids in this class, we're going to define those. Those are the HXs. Those are all going to be strong in here. Those are all strong acids. For 8 and 8 acids that we end with "ic" and "us" when we turn them into an acid, we have a couple rules that we have to follow. So we look at the number of oxygens in our acid minus the number of hydrogens in our acid. If that is greater than or equal to 2, we define that as a strong acid. Conversely, if that number of oxygens minus the number of hydrogens is less than 2, we call that a weak acid. So we have a couple examples of that. H2SO4, we have 4 oxygens, we have 2 hydrogens. That is 2, so it's greater than or equal to 2. We call that a strong acid. On the flip side, we have H2CO3. We have 3 oxygens minus 2 hydrogens. That's less than 2 because that's only 1. So we have a weak acid over there. All right, we'll do these ones together. So name or write the formula for each of the following that identify as strong or weak. We'll do these 6 together, leave a space or two so that we can figure those out. Then I'll have you guys do these with a partner. Same thing with those 8. I'll see you in class. Take care.